In this cruise news review, discover what the very latest is on cruises resuming out of the USA, which line has just cancelled more cruises out of the United States, what other lines and countries have been given the go-ahead to start cruising again, what the scale of people testing positive trying to join cruises running in Europe has been, and how a cruise captain took down an attacker. I'm Gary Bembridge, and this is my latest cruise news review, the 21st in my update series, where I discuss the biggest and most significant news in cruising and unpick what it means for you and me as cruisers. First of all, what is the latest out of the United States? Two big developments to discuss. Mike Pence, the US Vice President and head of the Coronavirus Task Force, finally held a delayed meeting on how to enable the resumption of cruising out of the US ports. On the call were the senior leadership of the 5 biggest cruise groups sailing out of the USA. So that's Carnival, Royal Caribbean, Norwegian, MSC Cruises and Disney. Representatives from the CDC, that's the Center for Disease Control, and some of the Royal Caribbean and Norwegian Healthy Sailing Panel. Now the latter is significant because they were the ones that put the 74-point proposal on how cruising could resume together. Now based on that meeting, the Vice President said importantly that he supports the goal of the resumption of cruises out of the USA and was encouraged by the progress on developing new safety protocols. Now the meeting agreed the task force will review those and put together a recommendation to put to President Trump before the 31st of October, which is when the current no-sail order expires, and also noticeably, I guess, before the US election. Now, one significant warning in the official White House report of the meeting is, and I want to quote this, is they cautioned that the cruise industry would have to backstop their venture to resume operations. Now, I wasn't really sure what that meant, so I went and checked, and it looks to address a really big concern that the CDC and, in fact, other authorities have, which is if there is an outbreak on ships, there would be, as in the run-up to the shutdown, a drain on their resources and those of the health systems in the United States. So it looks like the lines will be required to, not unreasonably in my view, have a plan to cover the costs and also have facilities able to cover and cope with any outbreak and not make demands on USA resources and facilities. This really seems to be the key here. Now, in other big USA news, Carnival Cruise has joined lines like Royal Caribbean, Virgin Voyages and Norwegian, and they have now also cancelled cruises out of Miami and Port Canaveral right through to the end of November. Now, previously, they had cancelled all cruises from other USA ports to the end of December, suggesting they may restart in November from those 2 ports. They have also cancelled, by the way, cruises out of Sydney, Australia, right through to February the 8th, 2021 now. So although there seems to be some signs the USA may be closer to resumption of cruising before the end of 2020 in some form, there is little meaningful progress in some of the other big cruise port countries like the UK and Spain. Both still advise strongly against cruising, and there is no real news on those governments looking at all to approve resumption of cruises. Now, both have fast-growing infection rates. They're currently very focused on controlling these, so it's kind of hard to see much energy in working on cruise resumption anytime soon. Now, not surprisingly, the UK-based lines like Cunard, Saga, Pinot Cruises have cancelled cruising to the end of 2020 and in some cases right through to spring 2021. In one development, Clear UK and Ireland and the UK-based cruise lines, they issued a document with some protocols on the safe resumption of cruising to at least start the discussions, but there's no news on next steps and what will happen. And I don't think we will see much news there for some time. So what has started cruising? As you likely know, Hurtigruten and Seadream have been cruising in Norway for some time. Mein Schiff and Hapag-Lloyd out of Germany for German-speaking travelers for some time, and more recently Mein Schiff 6 has been sailing from Crete, in fact, since September. MSC Cruises is sailing out of Italy with Italian, Greek and Malta voyages. That started with MSC Grandiosa and was followed by MSC Magnifica from middle of October. Costa, which is part of the Carnival group, is sailing for Italian customers. Now their 3rd ship, Costa Smeralda, is joining Deliosia and Diadema this month. Now, these ships will all be ultimately based out of the Italian port of Savona, and from November they're going to be sailing even 14-night cruises going to places like the Canary Islands, Portugal and Turkey. AIDA, which is also a Carnival line catering for German-speaking guests, they resume cruising out of Italy from the 17th of October, and they ultimately will have 3 ships sailing by the end of the year. Ponant have been sailing out of France for French guests. They've sailed more than 50 cruises since July. They've carried over 3,000 passengers. They go around the French coast, they go to Iceland and the Arctic. Paul Gauguin line, that's been sailing in the French Polynesia. They've completed 8 voyages so far successfully. Sea Dream will start sailing the Caribbean out of Barbados towards the end of the year, and they're moving the ships there in November. There have been Dream Cruise Line cruises out of Taiwan, and now Royal Caribbean's Quantum of the Seas and Genting Cruise Line's World Dream are going to start sailing 3- and 4-night cruises out of Singapore from November and into December for residents only of Singapore. These ships are going to operate with 50% capacity, and like other cruises that have resumed, they're going to have things like testing, social distancing, mask wearing, all that kind of stuff. So how exactly are the lines that are sailing been doing? Now, other than the well-publicized outbreak on Hurtigrutens Ronald Amundsen, where 41 crew and 21 passengers were infected, simply because they didn't follow their own protocols. But the other cruises resuming have had very good success due to really strictly enforcing the agreed protocols. Now, these include testing of crew and passengers before boarding, reduced ship capacity, no self-service dining, physical distancing through controls in numbers allowed to use pools, fitness center, theatre, shops, elevators, and numbers in dining venues, masks being used indoors when not seated, cruise line excursions to get off the ship, changes to cleaning, disinfecting and ventilation. So really strict protocols. MSC Cruises have confirmed that their pre-boarding testing to date, which at the time of recording has been 8 cruises and around 16,000 passengers, that just over 100 guests have been refused boarding due to, I'm going to quote Pier Francesco Varga, who's their executive chairman. He said, for testing positive, traveling with someone who tested positive, not having the correct medical paperwork, or for infractions of our protocol. Now, the latter refers no doubt to a family group that left a cruise line excursion to do their own thing, and they were thrown off the cruise by MSC. Now, speaking to people who follow my channel and have actually cruised with MSC in the past few weeks, they confirmed that the protocols were rigorously enforced. They were actually not only tested before they boarded, but they were also tested at the end of the cruise to confirm that they were negative before they got off the ship. Now, one little cover development has been the use of technology to assist with tracking and tracing on the ships now sailing in Europe. Now, MSC Cruises have been using a wearable band, and Costa have introduced a version of the Princess Cruises medallion. Now, these devices are issued to each guest, and they collect data on where people are on the ship, as well as enabling things like touch-free payments, opening of cabin doors on some ships, remote ordering of things like drinks and food, that kind of stuff. Now, these discs are able to determine who was within 6 feet for more than 15 minutes, according to the information issued by the various lines. These are voluntary and the people can opt in, but they're a key part of the track and trace. One of the most entertaining pieces of cruise news in the last week was from Captain Kate McHugh. Now, she's the captain of Celebrity Edge. Now, that ship is currently acting as the mothership for all the Celebrity fleet that are moored out sort of towards Bahamas. Celebrity Edge is the one that calls into Miami. They bring on supplies and crew and then channels them to the other ships. Now, she received a comment about how could a woman be a cruise ship captain on TikTok, and this is her TikTok video reply used with her thanks.
Normally, as I'm scrolling through comments and I see something like this, I totally ignore it and move on with my life. But I think it's about high time that I address this because it's 2020. And in this day and age, I'm shocked that someone still doesn't know the difference between your and your. So just a quick reference, your as in you are, like you are sexist. Your is something possessive, it belongs to you, like your ignorance. But don't worry, I'm here for you. If you need any more clarification, you can find me here in my captain's chair.
You can follow her in all social media. You just look for Captain Kate McHugh. Hopefully you found this latest cruise news review helpful and interesting. I have plenty more cruise updates and tips episodes, so why not enjoy another one right now?